Hello and welcome back to another Official Vader video. Today we'll be starting a series of videos titled An Ultimate List of the Star Wars Canon Species. I won't be covering species listed in novels or in most of the comics. All of the species I'll be covering in this series of videos are the species that you see in the movies and in the shows. As you can see on the screen, I list all the home planets of each species and give an example of a character from that species. I won't be talking about every one, just the ones I know more about or ones with interesting facts. We have an Abonito. They were introduced in the sequel trilogy, first in The Force Awakens, so you see them pop up in the new movies. And then the Angels of Iago, they were introduced or mentioned in Phantom Menace by Anakin, who calls Padme an angel from the moons of Iago. And then in Star Wars The Clone Wars, you see Anakin go to that moon, and he actually meets those angels that he made that reference to. And we have an Aqualish. They kind of look like walruses. You see one of them in A New Hope. His name was Ponda Baba. He's with Dr. Evazan. And then we have the Aki. They were first introduced in The Rise of Skywalker. They're from Pisana. And then we have the Asagian on the bottom. He was actually put in The Phantom Menace to call back to Steven Spielberg's movie E.T. because he had Yoda in that movie. So George Lucas and Spielberg, since they were friends, Lucas put an Asagian, or an E.T. alien, into The Phantom Menace. We have the Azumel, introduced in Solo's Star Wars story. They were looking and cheating at Han's cards, playing Sabacc. Alazmec were introduced in Rise of Skywalker. They were the people that Kylo Ren was slaughtering on Mustafar in the beginning. And then we have an Anzellan, who is Babu Frik from The Rise of Skywalker. The Balasar is the species of Ellen Sleaze Bagano, the character that offers Obi-Wan death sticks in Attack of the Clones. Probably the best name in Star Wars. And then we have a Bardodin, who was introduced in Clone Wars, Queen Julia, aka Jar Jar Binks' girlfriend. The Basilisk was the species of Pon Krell, the Jedi turned traitor during the Umbara arc of Clone Wars, and then Dexter Jetster, who was introduced in Attack of the Clones. We have Bith. They were introduced in New Hope. They are the Cantina band, titled Figrin Dan in the Modal Nodes. And then we have a Bothan on the bottom, and those were the ones who found where the Death Star was hiding in Return of the Jedi. The only noticeable one on this slide is the Blutopian. You see her in Rogue One in Jin's cell in the beginning, and then there's also one who runs the Cantina in Galaxy's Edge. Moving on to the seas, we have a Kafex. You can play as them in the Battlefront 2 video game. You also see one at the end of Rise of Skywalker. We have a Saurian, which is the species of Coyote Mundi. We have a Shagrian. Masameda was the Grand Vizier of the Emperor during the reign of the Empire. Chiss, Mithron Nerodu, aka Thrawn, that's his species. Claudite are the Changelings, so Zam Wessel is a Claudite. Krolu is Unkar Plutt from the sequel trilogy. And a Claudogran is the species that you see in the final scene of The Last Jedi. The most notable character on this slide is Tersa Nube, who is a Causian. This slide has a lot of known characters on it. We have Asajj Ventress, who is a Dathomirian Night Sister. Sidon Nathano from the sequel trilogy, he is a Delphidian. Deveronians are seen in a bunch of media, the most recent one in The Mandalorian, played by Clancy Brown. The Dugs that you see in Phantom Menace, Sebulba, and you also see them in Clone Wars. Their home planet is actually Malastare, the home of the Zillo Beast. And then another known one is the Duros. You see them in A New Hope, and the most notable one is Cad Bane, who is the bounty hunter from Clone Wars. The only really notable species on this slide is the Dianoga. I thought they were a non-sentient species, but they actually are sentient, and they were seen first in A New Hope. Here we have the Ewoks. Most famous Ewok is Wicket from Episode 6, and then Odie Mandrill, who is an Urkit. He's one of the pod racers that you see in The Phantom Menace. We have a couple familiar species on this slide. Falleen, seen in the Clone Wars. Zaitan Maj is the leader of the Black Sun crime syndicate. Most of the Falleen that we've seen have just belonged to the Black Sun. And then we have Dr. Nuvo Vindi and his Blue Shadow Virus. He's a Faust, also from Clone Wars, and then a Felucian, the farmer Cassis from another episode of the Clone Wars. Here we have some Gamorreans, most well known for being Jabba's guards, a Galusian, which is that weird Lulio Primic singer from Solo's Star Wars story, Geonosians from the planet Geonosis, and then Gotal are seen in the animated shows, both Clone Wars and Rebels. Here we have a Gran. Ask Ak was the pod racer who was killed during the Phantom Menace. Grindelids, which were introduced in Solo. Lady Proxima is a Grindolid. Our favorite Gungan, Jar Jar Binks, he's an Otala Gungan. That's why he looks different from Boss Nass, who is an Ankura Gungan. So different kinds of Gungans, but they are still Gungans. And then a Gilliand is the female species of a Crowloot. If you've seen the Clone Wars, you know what that means. That means Admiral Trench, he's a Harch. We have these weird Heptunians from The Last Jedi. Hylobons are Dryden Voss's guards. So Aemon Grem is the lead guard. We have the Hutts. And then humans. Anakin is my favorite character, that's why I put him as the human one. And then Hasks, which look like weird wolves. Seisei Tin is an Iktachi. The Imrusian is the hostess from Solo. Ishitib, they're seen in a bunch of canon media. And then the Ithorians are also seen in a bunch of places. The most recent one is Dak Ondar, who lives on Batuu at Galaxy's Edge. Thanks for sticking around for part 1 of my ultimate list of species in the Star Wars canon. If you enjoyed the content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for the next parts of this series. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a good one.